Hello. Thank you for joining for our PowerPoint on the Vajrayogini heroines. I wonder if I could have a little image of myself as well. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's start by calling in the guru. Namo Gurubhya. Namo Buddhanya, Namo Dharmanya, Namo Sanghanya. Namo Gurubhya. Namo Buddhanya, Namo Dharmanya, Namo Sanghanya. Namo Gurubhya. Namo Buddhanya, Namo Dharmanya, Namo Sanghanya. So thank you for joining me for this presentation on Vajrayogini heroines. We'll be looking at, over the course of the next few weeks, several female goddesses from the Buddhist tradition, looking at the representation of the feminine in a very broad spectrum of different deities. So let's see, how do I make it go forward? So I've been living a spirit-led life since I can remember. I came from a history of severe trauma. And so I sought refuge in meditation, Buddhism, and the martial arts. Let's actually go to the next. Here are some of my teachers that I've had along the way. In addition to getting a degree in religion with an emphasis on mystical Buddhist practices and Tantra, and doing my honors thesis, my master's thesis on mindfulness in an era before anyone knew what mindfulness was. After receiving that degree, I started studying with Antal Rinpoche. Here we have the image of him. Oh, go backwards. Well, go some way. There you go. There's Antal Rinpoche. And a recent representation of him that was done by another Sangha sister named Dinara Zai. You can see he's really personable. This is, somebody who came to Tallahassee for almost 25 years and also sent a variety of other teachers. And his lineage was the Drikung Kagyu lineage that he presented. And he was mostly interested in two main female deities that we will be talking about. Vajrayogini and the Chud practice of Machig Labdron. And we'll be looking at them independently. So I received a number of empowerments from him, including the white Tara, the green Tara. I received my initiatory name. I did the preliminary Nandro practices, which are a fairly intense package of practices. I did them under him. And meanwhile, I was studying Chen style Tai Chi with Zhangshu Shen. You see here, lean with back. I didn't notice that was there. Chen style is the original style that came out of China. Master Zhangshu Shen was considered to be one of the 4 horsemen of Chen village that brought the style to the United States. It's a very powerful technique that involved a lot of psychospiritual dynamics. And a lot of the Tumo elements, we'll be looking at some different things from that practice without actually getting up and doing the form, just looking at some other aspects of it. I also studied a lot of Taoist yoga with this man down here at the bottom. His name is Ted Parker. He recently passed. We had a personal mentorship for a long time. And we did a lot of the Montauk Chia sexual alchemy practices. We were not sexual partners, in case you're wondering. But we did work with a lot of sexual content. Around the time that COVID started, I began studying with Lama Glenn Mullen, which reminds me I should be robed. And received many initiations from him, many empowerments, as well as the Nakma. So I am ordained as a non-monastic initiate. My Buddhist name is Kondroma, which means sky dancer. And somewhere in the midst of all of this, I was doing all this martial arts stuff. I did martial arts for 40 years. I taught for 30. I got very sick with Lyme disease, and so I stopped teaching martial arts. And I had a few years of death. I went through herbalism school with Rosemary Gladstar, became certified in herbalism, and healed myself of a diagnosis that was called multiple sclerosis. I did a lot of mantras, the same mantras I'm going to show to you. And then I became connected with Father Barabbas, whose system of magic I adopted along with my husband. We established the Temple of Limitless Light about 10 years ago and have been doing magic since then. I've received initiations into the Alexandrian tradition, and I'm also first degree with the OTO. And I'm the matrix of the Majestrix of the Temple of Limitless Light, so I've gotten that initiation as well. Okay. So over these next few weeks, I'd like to lead us from grounding to healing to resilience through the lineage, and then looking at the spiritual fire of bliss, cutting the false sense of the ego, and then the shield of protection. And I'd like to integrate this with a technique that let's go to here. I'd like to integrate this with a technique that I've been developing over the years in my psychology practice, because I also do mindfulness, I do somatic work, I do internal family systems and ego state work, and I'm EMDR certified, which was an additional degree in and of itself. So the first couple of presentations will be very easy, but as we progress, we'll be progressing into material that is not commonly taught, that is dealing with more difficult energies. And that's, I think we're just going into very broad general teachings like Green Tara, which is the first goddess that everyone meets on their Buddhist path. Most of the time, it's one of the Taras, usually green or white. And then going into things that are a lot more exclusive. I want to speak for just a minute about the idea of Mahayana, Hinayana, and Vajrayana. so that you understand the difference, right? So Mahayana practices a practice that a lot of people do. It's what most people think of when they think of Buddhism. And it's very broadly practiced in China, India, other parts of Asia. This is a householder practice that anybody can do along with living their life. It has little bits of whatever people were practicing there before, usually an animistic type of tradition that's generally woven in, and things become regionally localized and take on their own definition, as opposed to the Hinayana tradition, which is more of a monastic tradition in Southeast Asia. Um, and you see, this is where the monks are actually upholding the traditional practices. They're doing they're living a life of upholding these practices in a very formal way. And of course, we see this all over the place, right? Nowadays, we see it everywhere. Um, and so this is a Vajrayana. It comes out of Tibet. It comes out of Nepal and some of the areas close to the region of the Ganges, the northern area, the Ganges kind of at the foothill of those Himalayas. And this is a more mystical version, I think. I think it's just blatantly, openly mystical in its presentation. We're talking about spiritual energy. We're talking about elements of shamanism that predated Buddhism by tens of thousands of, who knows, going back in antiquity. So that was what was happening there. And then Buddhism was brought into Tibet by Padmasambhava and his women that were around him that got no credit. But we will be talking about those women as well. And it flourished and it blossomed. So it has a lot of these aspects of a shamanic practice and may be considered, well, until Rinpoche blatantly told me shamanism originated in Mongolia, Tibet is a shamanic practice. And he was rather particular about who he thought was practicing shamanism. We'll talk more about that next week, perhaps. But I want to point that out because we see some things that are similar to our other magical practices. Because everybody across the globe works with things like animistic, nature-based spirits, house spirits, using intention to create a reality, right? What we might call in magic spell casting. And using different things to reinforce and support what we're trying to do, what we're trying to create. And so, and then using deities, having this intercessory relationship with entities that are not physical. So Buddhism clarifies all of this with a purpose for the benefit of all. There's only one morality here. There's only one direction that we're going. There's only one use of these techniques. And when we participate in the practice of these techniques, it's always for the benefit of self and others so that we can be happy and we can be free of suffering and we can abide in peace and we can rest in equanimity. And so that's what we're doing here. That's the thing that makes it unique from any other magical practice that we may come across, even though we see these similarities woven through very obviously. Okay, so I went Tara back again. Shoots. So this is a pretty simple representation of green Tara. We see her on a lotus. See, she is on a blooming lotus flower, surrounded by other flowers, and then surrounded by this golden halo to show her luminosity. as she comes to us through the portal into our reality in this form from the tears of the embodiment of compassion. The universe is divided into two, wisdom and compassion in Buddhism. And all of the deities follow along that dualistic notion, with the compassion aspect considered to be male and the wisdom aspect considered to be female. And she holds this flower. It's called Utpala, and it's green. And it's up here, right next to her ear. And classically, you'll hear that the definition of what that flower means is that it's a representation of all of the Buddhas of all times. And they're informing her and helping her to transmit that wisdom to you as you look upon her right now in this moment. It represents her clarity, that her teachings are clear, pure, gentle, kind. And unfolding at all times. And then you see her right hand is facing down in a mudra. You can't see the mudra very well. You can just kind of see those ring fingers bent in a little bit to activate the energy centers of compassion, wisdom. And this hand is down. The Buddha Shakyamuni is often shown traditionally with his hand pointing down, but the palm is down facing the ground. And that is the gesture that he used when he stilled the noise of the earth, of this world, when he stepped out of the vacillations of duality, the maras and the illusions, and he said, stop. And he put his hand down on the ground. And she does a very similar gesture, but her hand is out. Both of her hands are out. It's not stop. It's welcome. I'm here for you. So compassion cried when he saw the struggles of the world, and he produced green Tara so that we may be able to find our way through. And Tara is traditionally represented in 21 different forms to represent the fullest spectrum of our experience here. And today we look at green Tara. So what I'd like to do now as we look at her is guide you through, kind of orient you to a mindful somatic sequence that will help us to orient to our bodies, to our breaths, to our breathing in our bellies, and stabilize the vagus nerve. So we have within us a nerve, right, that goes from here to the base of our spine that we call the vagus nerve. And in therapy, in psychological thinking, when I do therapy with my clients, I want people to get to a place where they can feel a safety, where they have a ground, where they have a place, so that what flowers out of that is the authenticity of who they are, the beauty of who they were designed to be, what they were designed to become, right? Because I believe that life is a process of becoming, and that can get, we can find obstacles along the path. We call them skandhas in Buddhism, the obstacles, the ways that we perceive reality. And I think that mindfulness is very helpful, but we're going to try adding this deity practice as well. So I'd like to guide you through a practice, a simple thing, a simple activity. I think all of you will have no problem with it. But if you do, feel free to step back at your level of comfort. To orient us to our body. So I invite you now to notice your feet. This is my classic way to begin. Notice the feet. Notice as you settle your awareness in the feet, the toe, the heel, the toe, the heel, the toe, the heel, that the energy of the body begins to settle and something starts to wake up inside. And then bring the awareness to the breath. And specifically for today, I'd like, if you know how to do a belly breath, then I'd like to use that specifically. And perhaps at some point in time in the future, we can look at the belly breath a little bit more clearly and cultivate that, because breathing from the belly is a very important spiritual practice. And so I invite you to just go into a light trance and stay in it. Not too heavy, not too deep. Stay present and aware. Just asking any stresses, if they show up in this space, to kindly step back so we can continue to do our work. And now starting with the head, if you notice any tension that's there, just see that like dust and allow it to melt down to the area of the throat. Just dissolving all sense of being into the throat. And dissolving all sense of being like dust trickling down from the throat into the heart. And noticing any feelings that reside there. And releasing, dissolving, letting go into the belly. So that everything is in the belly. And you're breathing from the belly. And this allows our being, our vagus nerve system, to come out of any feelings of anxiety or apprehension or need for vigilance into safety, as much as the system will allow at this time. And we trust the system with what it does and what it doesn't do. And just let it do whatever is showing up, noticing, without judging or feeling a need to be doing a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that. As you continue to notice the feet and the breath, the vagus system will come naturally of its own accord into a place of relaxation. This is what the Buddha called a skillful means, an upaya, a cause and condition by which we could achieve a state of enlightenment or freedom from the burdens of our life. To achieve a mental state, a physiological state, a psychological way of navigating through our physical reality as it unfolds before us. And if it feels good to you, then I would invite you to rock 3 to 5 times from one hip to the other. I don't know if you can see my video. Can't see my video anymore. And this will reinforce that feeling that you've cultivated in this moment. Let it all settle. From the head to the throat, to the chest, to the belly. One more time. Okay. So this is the mantra for Tara. And I know all of your audios are off, but I'm going to do what is called a lung. I am authorized to provide a limited amount of transmissions. So I can do what is called a lung. This is not an empowerment in the way that a lama would give. But it does activate something inside of you, a seed that makes the mantra more effective. And if any of us are seeking empowerment, then I can certainly provide guidance as to where to find those things. So I would like to say this, and then you can repeat after me 3 times. Okay. Om Tara Tu Tara Tu Re So Ha. Om Tara Tu Tara Tu Re So Ha. Om Tara Tu Tara Tu Re So Ha. Okay. So now this mantra can be said silently to yourself, or it can be said out loud with a little bit of activity going on in the throat. I would encourage you to try doing this with a little bit of activity in the throat. The mics are off, so no one can hear you, and I'll set an alarm. We'll do it together. I was thinking we could do this for about, why don't we try 3 minutes? So you'll maintain the feet and the breath in the belly. And recite this mantra out loud for 3 minutes while gazing at this image and contemplating the nature of safety and being in the body. And see what comes of that. Okay. Okay, that's 3 minutes. Just a little taste. And in the future, if we like, we could do longer. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording now so we can have a group share.